Hello everyone, I'm Tony Southcott. Welcome to another edition of 5 Facts. We are here to talk about Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth, the 2006 fantasy masterpiece. Fact number 1. Was the story real or just in Ophelia's head? We have a few hints. According to del Toro, he left hints showing that the story was real. There might be objective ways that you could say it was false, but here are some of the clues. To me, the most compelling evidence is the mandrake root. While it is under the bed, Ophelia's mother is starting to mend. She's starting to get better. As soon as it is thrown into the fire, Ophelia's mother immediately has all of her health issues come crashing back down on her. These next 3 are from del Toro himself and probably matter the most. He said to look at the flowers growing at the end of the movie as a clue, that the chalk appearing in Vidal's desk and the fact that she was able to go from the upstairs to the basement so quickly, and also how she was able to escape the maze since it was actually hitting dead ends and it opened up for her. I think it was real, but I'm not 100% sure on if she actually survives this by transcending or not. Fact number 2. This film almost didn't happen because of a mishap in a cab. Guillermo del Toro is notorious for taking massive amounts of notes as he fleshes out a screenplay. Not just a few pads here and there, but book-sized volumes of information. It is part of his process and why these stories seem to exist so potently in their own world. While he was making Pan's Labyrinth, he left his giant pile of notes and volumes in a cab. In despair, he thought that the project was over and couldn't be recovered. He'd been working on it since 1993, so this was a lot of paperwork. While cleaning his cab, the driver read some of the notes and realized their importance. He would then go on a quest to find del Toro. After considerable amounts of time and money were spent, he was able to deliver the notes. For his trouble, he got a $900 tip. Del Toro considered this such a blessing that he worked even harder to make sure that Pan's Labyrinth would find its way to the silver screen. If he hadn't gotten his notes back, he was planning to make a Marvel movie. I couldn't get a definitive answer on what it was, but most sites reported it was a Doctor Strange script written by Neil Gaiman. This preceded the Leviathan that is the MCU, so there was less interest at the time and the studio passed on it. Fact number 3. On the ending and its meaning. There are many interpretations on this film's ending. Some think that Ophelia transcended into her natural world, which is a literal view of what we are being shown. Many others think that she simply passes and is a cruel commentary on the nature of war, that this might be some sort of hallucination before she dies. Del Toro in his own words said, "I always think of the beautiful quote by Soren Kierkegaard that says, 'The tyrant's reign ends with his death, but the martyr's reign starts with his death.'" I think that is the essence of this movie. It's about living forever by choosing how you die. By this interpretation, she truly did die, but people still believe that her spirit moved on to the other place. And in the real world, she would be considered a martyr for her country. Fact number 4. The Pale Man was an incredibly complex costume. For those of you who have been around a while, you know I'm a major fan of Doug Jones. He's almost always the monster or alien, other than movies like Absentia. In this film, he had a whole host of issues when it came to becoming the Pale Man. The first of which was that it took 5 hours for him to get into full costume. He also had to act and respond to lines in Spanish, a language he didn't speak. This was made more difficult because of the motors in the mask that were used to control his ears and other things. This was a much bigger problem for the Fawn costume. They were so loud that he couldn't hear Ivana Baccaro's voice most of the time. So for that whole 5 hours, his only line of sight was out of the nose of that costume. Despite all this, Doug Jones has stated that it was one of the most comfortable costumes he ever wore. It came in chunks so that the weight was distributed evenly. It sat on his hips instead of all being supported by the shoulders, and it was a marvel in costume design. There were many inspirations for it. The original idea was a perversion of the stigmata, which is when a possessed person received the wounds of Christ. Tenome also inspired it, which is a Japanese creature whose name is literally translated to eyes on hands. The Pale Man is a reflection on what del Toro feels toward the Catholic Church. He feels like they are indifferent to the people and just as likely to consume the children it claims to save. He also hated their complicity with fascism in Spain at the time. Fact number 5, popcorn facts. When I don't find a big meaty one, I just shotgun a bunch of small ones at you. Guillermo del Toro repeatedly said no to Hollywood producers, in spite of being offered double the budget provided the film was made in English. He didn't want any compromise in the storyline to suit the market needs. Sergio Lopez, who played Captain Vidal, has more often been seen as comedic or melodramatic actor. It's amazing he was able to so easily become a sinister and memorable character. He really is a great bad guy. This movie solidified del Toro's hatred of horses. He has always considered them to be nasty, but the troublesome horses in this film made him absolutely hate them. This might have been influenced by Manalo's Solo almost being killed by a horse falling on him during filming. The name Pan's Labyrinth isn't quite correct because Pan is a god character, but not the one that is in this. This is just a faun, and the reason for this is that the actual god Pan is a bit too overly sexual, and he wasn't comfortable having children being filmed with that sort of a character around. Pan's Labyrinth is one of the best fantasy movies ever made. It feels like it is going to be a kid's movie in some ways, and it then falls into that characteristic loathsome, dark, and deep feeling that Del Toro does best. It really is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I hope that you guys will check it out, or if you have already, please tell me what you feel about this movie. Put it in the comments below. Tell me any other facts that you might know about it, and as always, hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit up our Patreon at patreon.com/humanechoes. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back with more 5 Facts very soon.